Medal Act honoring her civil rights and gender equality advocacy. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Kerry Show with Arnie Filko and Kerry Grant.
This is Kerry Grant. Arnie's off tonight, and we're going to do a little bit of a Christmas theme show today. I have a special guest coming into the studio in a few minutes, but I'll start off by saying it is definitely the Christmas season out there. I was out doing some things and made the mistake of going to a grocery store, Jazz, and let me tell you, the people are, the lines, people are buying everything, man. And I was just trying to get some cleaning products. I wasn't even trying to get food, but it was just incredible what people are doing. I don't know about you and your family,
yeah,
but
it's that time of year where a simple trip to the store for something like
finding a parking space.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Yeah,
it really was.
If you're gonna get toilet paper,
right,
just be prepared.
You should leave at 6 in the morning.
Yeah,
no doubt about that. But it's good to see people out and about and buying and everything. I mean, everybody talks about the economy being tough, but I don't think the cash registers are registering that. It looks like people are spending money and buying gifts and doing all of that. I wouldn't even go close to the Lakeside Mall or anything. You probably can't even drive around there.
Yeah, well, this time of year, a lot of people, regardless of their situation,
yes,
they are going to, some people will go beyond their means.
Absolutely.
Just to,
credit card debt is real, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
But it's like I said, it's good to see people out there are doing their thing and everything. But ultimately, what I wanted to say is the other night you and our sports guy were doing a thing about Christmas songs. I talked about this a little bit the other day, and I'm kind of a movie buff, and I was thinking. I said, Christmas movies, man, and I really mean this.
There's a lot of Christmas.
There are too many.
Good Christmas movies.
There's almost too many. But one thing I thought about was I don't have a favorite Christmas movie, but my favorite Christmas show is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, since I was a kid, that was my thing. It wasn't Christmas till Rudolph came.
Till Rudolph hit the scene, right?
Then I was in the mood, and especially when I had my kids were young. That was my signal. It was like, okay, now we can put the tree, do all that kind of stuff. But what I was thinking about was, I really, and I know most of our listeners are Black people, and I was really thinking about, I really would like to hear people say what Black Christmas movies they really like, that really kind of resonate with them. I've only seen a couple of them over the years that were really well done and kind of hit home with people. I know a lot of people like The Preacher's Wife and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just, that kind of thing. But it's kind of a different take on what you were doing the other day.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things out there. And sometimes I think people don't even know about these things. And, there's a lot of access to stuff now. So you can pretty much see whatever you want to see. But it just would be interesting to hear from people about what they like
which was their favorite.
Yeah, or what, when they were a kid or whatever, what meant something to them. And, we had a lot more cartoon specials and stuff like that when we were kids.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was the old school Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah.
I mean, they played that had to get played like 2 decades in a row every Christmas for 2 decades. It's the same.
Thing, like the Charlie
Frosty.
Brown Christmas thing is a perfect example. Charlie Brown Christmas special is like on streaming or something like that. It doesn't even come on TV, and it's like that was a staple, man.
Yeah,
it came on for like 40 years in a row. And it's like, I mean, I think that sometimes, and the messages in those shows are good for everybody, and I think it helps with some of us older people to just remind you of what it was like when you were younger, and younger people to have that kind of connection. Yeah. So I just thought that was something interesting. But like you said, I mean, there's so many of these Hallmark movies that are just,
Hallmark, they come out with like 25 every year.
Yeah, and it's funny. I saw a comedian was talking about this, and he said because they come out with so many because it's the same formula. They just change.
They just change.
Just change basically the name of the character,
Yeah.
what job the woman has,
Yep.
what city she's from,
Yep.
that kind of thing.
Yep.
And they recycle, rinse, repeat. And so they have black people in them now. They have all kinds of things going on, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing that they, like you said, it's almost like a factory. They just turn
Yeah,
them
they
out.
just turn it
They
around.
just turn them out, and it's incredible. But
I think my favorite holiday movie, and I don't know, this isn't a holiday movie, but it very much is. There was a movie, Queen Latifah and LL Cool J.
Okay.
She had got diagnosed with a
yeah.
illness.
Yeah,
and she was traveling.
I remember the movie. Yeah.
So that presently is my favorite holiday movie.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, because I think that at this time of year, it would be good for, especially for the black audience, to find some of those things, like you said, and especially with some of our stars who've been putting it out there for a long time and doing a great job. There's some good movies out there, and for the family to watch. This something different that people can do, and like you said, because I find the difference in it is with songs, because basically record contracts meant that you had to have so many albums. Everybody did a Christmas album because it was just another album that you could produce, and you didn't have to pay for the rights. So you could sing, everybody could sing Silent Night, everybody could do whatever. But there's so many of those because of that factor. But there aren't as many African American movies, I think, that, like you said, really focus on the Christmas holiday. And there are some, but they aren't as well known. And I think that's a very true statement. But that was just something I was thinking about with how these things go. The other thing is, I'm noticing that the holiday season is, it's become like a really kind of a tight thing, because we've created such a monster with sports and the like, that there's so many things that are intruding almost on Christmas. The bowl games. I know you guys
on the day itself.
I mean,
right?
like 2 games on streaming on Netflix. Game at 1:00 in the afternoon, man. It's like, at 1:00 in the afternoon, my family will not be thinking about watching the NFL, especially a team that's not our own team. So it's
Right.
like,
Right.
that's going to be very difficult for me to understand. I think the NBA had put a little niche with that, and it was kind of good because it wasn't really intrusive, but. And they bring out their big stars for, so it was always the teams that everybody watched,
Right,
like the
right,
Lakers
right.
or whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll bring out the box draws.
Yeah, the big box office stars. And I think that now this thing is more like, it's just a proliferation of things. I mean, and the other thing, I mean, we definitely will talk about this at some point, but I just can't believe that there's enough teams to have this many bowl games in at all. I mean, there's like 30 or 40 bowl games, and now you've added this 12-game playoff in the middle of that. And
Yeah. I mean,
it's a lot.
I mean, think about it. That's a lot of college schools across the country.
Yeah, there's like 100 and something, major college football programs, and it's almost like half of them get to go to a bowl game.
Yeah,
So
some kind of way.
it's just it's really diluting the sport from my point of view, and I know that people don't attend them as well. There's one here in town tonight, and we hope that it does well. But these are drive-to bowls. These are more the people who are involved with the school. It's not going to be that high profile, but ESPN's putting them all on the air just like they're the same as the championship game. So it's almost like there's no distinction in that sense. But I think there's a lot of things crowding in with our holiday season that make things a little bit more commercialized to me.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm saying is that I come from a family, and I'm sure you do too, that the main thing about the whole Christmas season is to be with people that you care about, and spend some quality time. I mean, and like I said before on the show, the one thing I want to remind people of, because I'm to the age now where a lot of my friends are losing family members and that type of thing. And I think that people need to understand, if you have that grandmother, man, and they're at Christmas this year or whatever, and you're going to their house or whatever, you need to cherish that time because you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't. And you have to be very cognizant of that now because, things happen so quickly with people and things happen so harshly, and people are so spread out now that it makes a big difference when you're with people, and you have to appreciate these times and really value them because you never know. And I mean, just recently we heard from like 3 or 4 different people who've had some real tragedies that are totally unexpected and not anything that they were that the family was ready for, and now you have this time of year where these people won't be around, which makes it even harder. But I think that one thing I want to say too is that this show we talk about politics a lot and different things, national, international issues and all and the like. And I think that what I've seen from a lot of people is that they really want this time just to not think about any of that. I mean, I think that Jazz, I really think that people are just burnt out, man. I think they just don't want to.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's been rough. It's been rough for a lot of people. The past few, I just say this whole year has just been kind of strange.
It's been very strange. It's been very strange.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself and speaking for things that I've seen other people go through, this is kind of like that first year when COVID hit and everybody was just like, 19, can you please just go away?
Right.
Or 20,
right.
whichever one it was, was 19.
It was 19.
19.
Yeah.
Please just go away.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how a lot of people are feeling right now.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I think that I've never, I will say this, I've never seen so many people kind of shake their head when you say certain things. They just kind of nod and like, I can't engage. They just can't. They don't have the strength for it anymore.
Yeah.
So and I think they want to enjoy this little period of time before January 20th because
before
then we go right back into the roller coaster.
Before they have to start over again.
We go right back into the roller coaster again. So
yes.
I think that that's a real issue. Yeah. So hopefully people can kind of kick back a little bit while this is going on.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually think people are a little more exhausted this year in particular because of the political temperature.
Oh God,
of just this year period.
Oh yeah, it was too high. It was on 1,000 every day. You can't be on 1,000 every day.
And every day it was like, this is the most drastic, and
exactly.
It's just the tension was just so high that I think at this point, and then a lot of people were disappointed.
Yes.
So that has a lot to do with it.
There's a whole lot to do with it.
I think people are just kind of ready to just kind of sit back and hit the reset button.
I think you're right. I think one of the things that people were not prepared for, and I say this all the time about the Trump supporters, but I mean the Trump supporters are sore winners almost. I mean they want to rub it in. They want to and it's like okay, your guy won. Now he's made all these promises and everything. Let's back off the heat. We don't need all the heat anymore.
Right. I mean, he's in. Now let's see what he does.
Right. And I think that's what most people would like. You don't need, and like we said, and you don't need to be on 1,000 every day because, you got what you wanted. So there's that issue. And I think you're right. I mean, I think that these situations go on too long because campaigning for president particularly is too long. And this is something I want to talk with Arnie about when he gets back about the current campaigns in New Orleans. I mean, we've got people announcing for mayor and council and all that, and it's a year. It's like 14 months before you vote, and you wouldn't take office until January of 2026.
Right.
So can you keep that steam and that heat going for that long? I mean, it means sustaining money. It means staying in front of the public for a long period of time. And I don't know if these people really have this in them as they think they're. I think they think they're carving out space to put other people aside. But I think it's like people are going to get tired of you if they, you start talking. Usually in New Orleans, a mayor's race, and I've worked for 6 mayors, and in New Orleans, a mayor's race usually starts about in April after Mardi Gras or whatever. People start announcing and that kind of thing because they know there's nothing to be gained really from running right now because there's too much that goes on in this city.
Right.
And we got a Super Bowl coming up and Mardi Gras coming up, and that's going to suck a lot of the oxygen out of the room with both of those events and all the stuff leading up to them and everything. So I don't know. I don't know how you sustain that, and I don't know that the issues that we have in the city are as hotbed where you can keep them going for that long. I'm just being honest with you. I think that's going to be tough.
I agree with you. I haven't been studying the paths and the traits of politics for too long, but I think that you're right. It's starting a little bit early.
Yeah.
But I also think that this could be something good for a fresh face.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But only for a fresh,
right?
Only for a fresh face, because the fresh face
can get some
because
exposure.
people want to hear what you have to say.
No,
they'll take that extra time to be like, oh, this is a new face.
I agree
but they
with that.
won't necessarily take the time to pay attention to
somebody
extra
who's been
time,
around a long time
that we've seen you the past 4 years.
And how can you reframe yourself if you've been out there for that long and you're going to reframe yourself for another 11 months?
Right, like, unless you just totally
change
changing.
Right.
Exactly. And then that, when you totally change, because everyone changes.
Yeah.
Especially in politics.
Yeah.
Political stances change.
Yeah.
From situation to situation, right?
Right.
But when you make a total flip where you got to basically how I reintroduce myself,
right?
Then we have a then that raises up other questions. Like,
I agree.
Why?
Right.
Like, are you reintroducing?
And see that, Jazz, you bring up a good point. I mean, we're gonna outdo Arnie with all his political understanding and will, but you're making a great point because some of the people who are talking about doing things, some of the people who have announced and everything, it's what you just said. If you come up with something a little too radical, if you do a 180, if you do, we're all going to be looking at you for a long time.
Yeah, and we're going to be like,
you used to be over here, now you're
over
here.
Not only right there, but you way over
the other side. Because, are you just pandering to what's out there?
Or did you have a moment of enlightenment?
Right,
which is respectable.
Which is great. We're going to have enough time to ask. See,
right. We have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You can sit here and tell us, oh, I done had it was a enlightenment. It was this, that. But it's politics. We have to figure out if you
can you imagine in a forum like we have right here at this radio station, we could have somebody come in January and say, look, I want to ask you about this, ask you about that. Then we could say we're going to have you come in March. Ask you about this, ask you about that. We can catch you 4 or 5 times, man. And, you keep rocking and changing.
And we're going to see it.
We're going to see it. We're going to be like, wait, last time you came, you said.
You were saying something different.
Right.
Like
that could be really interesting. You're right about that. But for a person who we don't know, who's a newcomer or whatever, it could be a great launching pad.
Yes, because now you have time to actually beat that drum and be like, get people familiar with what you're saying and your cadence and your platform.
2 things that could work with that is because you could be, with the way things are, you could be a person who needs free media, needs media like this, that you're not paying for in fundraising and all that, using social media and stuff like that. If you have a long period of time and you're somebody who's up and coming, that could work for you.
If you're gonna spend that time in the grassroots.
Yeah. I mean, that could be really something good. We're gonna take a short break and we'll be right back.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
This holiday season, are you looking for the perfect phones and accessories for your family? Stop by the only Black-owned AT&T franchise in the Gulf Coast region, located at 3616 South Carrollton Ave. We also have great offers on watches and tablets. When you add a new line or upgrade whatever your needs, our team is here to help you find the perfect phone for everyone on your list. Visit us at 3616 South Carrollton Ave. Happy holidays from your local family-owned AT&T store.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
New Schools for New Orleans would like to wish all of our city's educators and families a happy holidays. As you prepare, remember to connect with family and friends, reflect on the fall semester, and set new goals for the new year. We appreciate everything you do.
What's up, WBOK family? I'm Caleb Huggins, your intern, and I'm here to wish you the happiest of holidays. And just take this time to be very, very grateful for all that you have and spend time with family and just make sure that we keep Jesus first.
WBOK 1230 AM online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carrie Show with Arnie Philco and Carrie Grant.
And we are back, and I have a very, very special guest, my bonus daughter, Alexandra Elam, who is a member of the Christmas Fest team.
Yes.
And I'm going to have her give a little bio of herself and tell us all about Christmas Fest.
Yes. So my name is Alexandra Elam. I originally grew up in Connecticut, which is where I first learned ice skating and have stuck with it ever since. I'm a Tulane University class of 2020 graduate.
Yay.
And roll wave. So I've been working at Christmas Fest for the past 6-7 years with the ice crew. We're running this year from December 20th through the 30th. We have a fully operational ice skating rink. So come on down.
And what is your role with the ice?
So I'm one of the ice ambassadors. It's another way of saying I'm one of the figure skaters there. So I coach lessons. I'm there to kind of help monitor rink safety, and I also do performances.
So this is a real rare thing. As we all know, there aren't many African-American ice skaters, period. Mm-hmm. And in this city, there aren't many good skaters of any kind. So roller skate or whatever. But tell us about how you really learned how to skate and why.
So as I mentioned, growing up in Connecticut, skating was just a regular activity. Gets below freezing after Thanksgiving, and it was just something that everybody did. What got me into skating was actually my older sister, Catherine, would go have lessons, and I would go to the same school to have my dance classes. And so I would watch her. I kept telling my mom, I really want to skate. I really want to skate. I really want to skate. And she, having grown up here, was very like ice skating, right? Like ice skating.
Right.
I didn't roller skate either. And so she was like ice skating. I ended up watching Michelle Kwan was actually probably one of the first skaters that I ever was like, oh my gosh, like I want to be her.
Yeah.
And then also Soraya Bonali, who is probably one of the most famous figure skaters of her generation, and probably one of the, I'd say, real torchbearers for African Americans in the sport. There's not many of us. I'm happy to see that with this new generation, we have people like Star Andrews, who competes out of Los Angeles, who's winning competition after competition. So I like to kind of look at that and say, wow, like we've had some progression.
Great. That's great. Just explain to the people, because if they've been to Christmas Fest, you've seen her because she's very tall and the only African American girl. So you've seen her, but and she's done a lot with kids, particularly. There's special. Just explain to the public how that works.
Yeah. One of the big things with Christmas Fest is that its entire purpose is for kids, to kind of give kids something to look forward to over the holidays, and really to give families who may or may not have the resources to have a traditional Christmas celebration, to give them something to do. One of the reasons why I keep coming back every year and why I've been doing it for almost a decade is I find it to be very important, especially for young Black children, that even if this isn't something that they decide to stick with, I think giving them that exposure of seeing somebody that looks like you doing this is always, important.
It's very important.
And especially, and I think that not just in skating, but I think in general, I think if you see somebody that looks like you doing something, it gives you that much more confidence to want to do it yourself, or believe that you can try and do it yourself.
And tell the listening audience that it's a fear of ice here. You're right about that. But tell them about some of the things you guys do to make sure their kids are safe and that it works for people, and don't be afraid to come out and try it.
As I mentioned, I coach private lessons throughout the festival. One of the big things that we do every year is we really emphasize safety. As we understand, this is not a demographic of people that necessarily have ever even really touched an ice rink before. One of the big things we do is once people get on the ice, we always try to have them do like a safety check with their skates to make sure your skate's not going to fly off once you start moving. We've only ever had that happen once. And
wow.
That's our usual first go-to. And then after that, we kind of help them walk through the basics of, unlike roller skating, which we all know is extremely popular here, because you're on ice instead of the ground, we always like to say kind of start with just by marching your feet along the ice. And we'll see even adults who are like, I've been roller skating for however many years. This is different. This is different. So we'll kind of have them get comfortable to having their arms out and just kind of marching their feet and moving around the ice. Last year, I actually had the joy of a student that I had been coaching for the past, I'd say probably 2 festivals, actually landed a jump. And that was something that was on their, I guess, Christmas wish list since I met them. And so getting to help them with that was very, very, very special.
So you also do exhibitions during the thing, which are really great. So talk about that a bit.
After we do ice cuts throughout the day, we actually do performances. So I will be there performing just about every day. Usually ice cuts are, I believe, 1:30 in the afternoon. So we do performances, routines, tricks. I was competitive for over 15 years, so you'll see me out there.
So tell the people about the performance a little bit, because I know people have watched this stuff on television, but the kinds of things you do, just to give them an example of some of the jumps and that type of thing.
I would say, as I previously mentioned, I've been retired at least from competing for a couple years, but I always like to do pretty basics like single jumps, spirals. Spinning is my favorite. Both forward spins, backward spins.
So how do you keep from getting dizzy in a spin?
Practice. Short answer, practice. The more technical answer is learning how to spot. Pick an unmovable object either on the wall. I always say look at the Christmas wreath that we have around the ice rink. Look at that, and then every time you spin around, keep looking for it. But it really just comes with practice. Which is why we say everybody starts somewhere with ice skating. We encourage everybody of all skill levels to come out and try. There's no shame in falling down. I actually felt earlier this evening. We always encourage people to just, the most important thing is really, besides overall safety, is really just have fun.
And the way that you guys have it set up, so I just want people to know, if you haven't been there before, how it's set up so that people aren't all on top of each other trying, just explain how that works. So people, I'm trying to get people to understand, and you should go out and see what this is all about.
The setup of the rink is geared towards, guest safety. What we've implemented is instead of having your standard ice rink, which is, a big circle, we actually have what we call a donut. So an outer lane with walls, which is what you usually see in an ice rink. And then we've added an inner lane. So you have 2 walls to hang on to. Like I said, this is mostly a beginner crowd. We always encourage people to come out and at least give it a try.
Yeah.
We've had we call traffic jams of, people trying to get around, everyone's reaching onto the wall, but having the setup be a donut is probably something that's helped in the past couple of years in terms of just, it opens up managing the crowd. It helps kind of keep the flow of traffic going. It's also a great spot for people to take pictures. So I always encourage that. Speaking of pictures, before I forget, we actually have a daily snowfall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, over the ice rink. We started doing that a couple years ago, and it's probably a crowd favorite. It's my favorite. We do it once a session. The sessions run from 11 to 3:30, and then 4:30 to 9, I believe. So we do a nightly snowfall. It's very magical. We always encourage people to take pictures, videos. It's a great time for family photos. That's probably my favorite.
So explain a little bit about the fest itself. I mean, I know people see these commercials on TV. They don't realize it's basically taking over most of the convention center. And they have rides. They have all kinds of.
We have pretty much brought the North Pole to New Orleans. We have this ice skating rink. We have 4 ice slides this year. Yep. We have ice bocce, which is something that I've never actually gotten a chance to play, and I'm really looking forward to doing it this year. We have rides, including, I believe we might have a Ferris wheel again this year.
Yeah.
You have carnival rides, games, food, a lot of food, so much food. Daily performances from different local dance groups, theater groups. You have story time with some of the North Pole characters.
Yeah.
My personal favorite is Skating with Santa, which is Sunday morning, the December 22nd, Sunday morning. It's probably my favorite activity of the whole festival. And it runs for 10 days.
So you mentioned the private lessons. Explain how that works to the public.
Yes. So private lessons are...
And how many people give the private lessons to?
The private lessons are organized by the ice crew. So myself and the rest of my team. They actually are in the mornings before the festival opens. So from 10 to 11, you can book for 30 minutes, a 30-minute lesson or an hour-long lesson. We've had, families do like group lessons. We've done one-on-one lessons. We've had, everything from, I think the youngest we actually allow on the ice are, I believe, 3 to 4-year-olds. So toddlers. Yeah. We've also coached adults, for all ages. Yeah. Our fearless leader, Sarah Zanoli, is, she actually organizes the private lessons in the mornings.
So how does a person, book?
So when you go to buy your ticket, if you scroll down on the website, you should actually find a tab that will lead you to the website to book. It should be on the Christmas Fest website.
That's great. The other thing that I wanted you to talk about a little bit is your competition with this. I mean, like I said, this is an opportunity for you to tell some of the people in Louisiana how a young African-American girl got to compete and go to all kinds of places and skate.
Yes. So I was competitive for about 15 years. I, having grown up, surrounded by ice skaters and, of different levels, it was something that was always very important to me. And once I decided that I wanted to compete as opposed to doing this recreationally, my mother was 100% behind it. I competed for a long time. I've traveled to competitions. I went to State Games of America twice. I won the Connecticut State competition for the Nutmeg State Games twice. I got my ladies gold for what used to be known as moves in the fields. And that was, one of my favorite routines I ever had was to Phantom of the Opera, which is the routine that landed me 2 gold medals.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I think that what I want to make sure that people understand is like we keep going back to this is something where you can bring your kids out. You can participate if you want to. You can stand by the wall if you want to, or whatever. But I mean, it's something to see. It's something very different from New Orleans, and I think it's been very good. And the crowds are really good. I mean, I think that people come out because it is something different, and it's something for people to do that's very different, but still a Christmas theme.
I think what makes it so appealing, and one of the reasons why I enjoy, working there is it kind of, I guess, eases people through what I call like the New Orleans holiday lull of, everywhere else, come January 6th, it's the end of the holiday season. But
Right.
for us, it's just getting started. So I
Absolutely.
think having something fun like this to do kind of in between, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I think it's just a fun way to kind of, get through the holiday season.
So tell us a couple of stories about your favorite moments and some of your funniest moments out
At
there.
Christmas Fest?
Yes.
One of my favorite moments was what I mentioned of a student I had who came back for about 2-3 years in a row.
Mhm.
They were determined to land a jump. They actually ended up landing 2. That was really cool. Probably one of my funniest moments I've ever had. Well, this wasn't a funny moment. This was a really endearing moment. A proposal. It was
Oh,
the
wow.
sweetest thing I'd ever seen. I hope the couple, I believe they've gotten married. The gentleman asked myself and Sarah, our manager, if he could propose in the middle of the session when we do the
Wow.
snowfall. And so we were like, of course. That was probably one of my favorite moments because we all knew about it. So we all got to, kind of like help plan this masterful proposal. And then a funny moment I had was a little kid that got on the ice. This was, I believe, Christmas Day. Their
Mhm.
entire family came out in matching pajamas. Little kid is having the time of their life on the ice. They're covered in, like snow. Their clothes
Yeah.
are getting wet. At one point, they take off their skates and just start walking off the ice. I turn around and I see this like little toddler just marching off the ice, holding their skates, and their
It's done.
parents are like, "What happened?" That was probably one of the funniest moments I've
It
ever
have enough.
had. Enough. Said it's nap time. I want to go home.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, if you have kids and they're rambunctious, it'll wear them out. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, it's probably one of my favorite things about the festival is
Yeah.
the family aspect of. I mean, there's like I said, there's rides, games. The ice slide is probably the most popular attraction behind.
Talk about that a little bit. Some of the other attractions, what they are. I mean,
Oh
yeah.
yes, the biggest and probably most popular are the ice slides. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant, like carnival slide that we've covered in ice. We've, poured water down it, frozen it, so it's real ice. I recommend wearing long sleeves and long pants. Get on an inner tube, slide, have the time of your life.
And the line is around the corner.
It's like I said, that line will be wrapped around the convention center before noon. It's the most popular attraction. The carnival rides are also probably really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe we still have the Tilt-A-Whirl this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, they've had it.
That's
The other thing is just for the adults that are listening. There's also a part for the adults where if you want to just let your kids run wild, your kids are a little older or whatever, you can just let them loose in there. And there's bars, there's places to drink,
Yes.
and
There-
typical New Orleans to have a nice sandwich and whatever, and
Eggnog
have a little
daiquiri.
libation while you're watching the kids skate or not watching the kids skate. Because it's very safe, because it's indoors, and there's really no way. There's only one way in and one.
We do a lot to make sure that it's a safe environment for kids to explore, try out new activities. We, as you mentioned, we do make sure to ensure that the parents also have fun.
Right.
Eggnog daiquiri is probably my personal
Yes.
recommendation. It's at the ice bar by the ice rink and ice slides.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, I want you to talk a little bit about. It's great that you're doing this, but I also want you to talk about some of your Tulane experiences. Particularly, we had on the show the people from Role Play before, and you were in
Yes.
Role Play. So just give us a little bit of that.
Yes. Role play. So my experience at Tulane was a really interesting time to be there. I started my freshman year in fall of 2016, and I graduated in May of 2020. I think it was just really, a really interesting, kind of.
So you were in the COVID class.
Yep, COVID class, the election cycle, all of it. Very, eye-opening time to be a college student.
Right.
My experience with Tulane, especially with role play, was I felt that the school itself was on the precipice of change. And it was something that you could just kind of almost like feel it in the air of there's just so much going on with the world and like world politics and whatnot, that it just felt like like this is a time to really voice our grievances. Role play, funny enough, role play was a project that I initially was very hesitant to be a part of.
Explain what role play is for the people who haven't heard of it before.
So role play is a feature documentary that world premiered at South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas. We had our New Orleans premiere at the New Orleans Film Festival this past October. But Role Play is a documentary film that follows myself and 10 other college students as we are working with the local theater group, Goat and Road Productions, to devise a play in response to a Tulane University climate survey specifically dealing with sexual violence and sexual assault on campus. This was a project that when we started it, we didn't have a script. It was really a kernel of a nugget of a seed of an idea. We just wanted a way to kind of, like I said, air our grievances and really feel like we were contributing back to the school. The play itself, throughout the documentary, the play itself ended up having a sold out run when I was still part of it. It's since been remounted, I believe in 2023. It's gone on to be probably one of the most, according to the school, one of the most effective teaching tool in terms of addressing campus sexual violence.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Have you've been back to campus since then? Have you seen a difference? Have you heard a difference with what happened?
Absolutely. I think in the, I graduated going on 5 years ago. I think in that time span, there's been a real cultural shift, not just at Tulane, but I think amongst, the Gen Z, generate that demographic in terms of awareness.
Right.
When I was still a student, I've talked about this in different interviews regarding the film. My experience as a student regarding sexual violence and the resources available were what I've labeled the magnet method of. We had freshman orientation. They told us, all of the rigmarole of here's who you call, here's where you go. These are like the steps you need to take. And then at the end of it, we were given a magnet that we were supposed to keep for the next 4 years to, if something bad happens, call the magnet, I would say that there's been a real sense of awareness since I've been back to campus. I was there as recently as this past homecoming. And there just seems to be a less tolerance regarding what,
so there's more awareness from both sides. From all
it's
sides
almost a sense of hyper awareness of, the days of questioning, if a student, if a female student is too inebriated to consent to anything, though I think those days are kind of done in terms of, well, I didn't know or I wasn't aware. That
was a thing.
Right, that was considered sexual violence. Of no, we're in the age, especially in the age of TikTok and technology, whatnot. Of that excuse is no longer viable.
That's the next thing I want to talk about while I have you here, because you are of that generation that is really into social media and gets a lot of information from that. The recent election, because this is a hyper-political show, but the recent election, I wanted to get your take on it as a young person about the lack of use of social media by the Democratic Party, or the use of it, or what did you see as the things that didn't move some of your generation and did move some of your generation maybe in directions you didn't anticipate they would go in?
So I think there's two kind of schools of thought here. In terms of things that went well in terms of the Democrats using social media, I would venture to say they didn't. I would say that the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz team really utilized it, but I think collectively as a party, they didn't. As we see now with, the support for the upcoming TikTok ban and whatnot, I think that kind of, the writing's on the wall in terms of their views of, the use of the internet.
Yeah.
I would also say, this is a kind of the second school of thought. I think the Republican Party really utilized the emphasis of incel culture on the internet and a lot of.
Explain what that is, because that's very important.
Yeah. To give kind of a broad strokes definition, incel culture it's the idea of involuntary celibacy. If you've seen any recent articles about the quote unquote male loneliness epidemic and whatnot, it's all wrapped up in that. So this idea that men are kind of in this limbo state of feeling rejected by women, but not feeling like they necessarily have a place or a clear cut, kind of model to follow in terms of what it means to be a man. I think a lot of what the Republican Party did was utilize that, and that's why we've seen an uptick in terms of traditional values and like this whole like trad, the quote unquote like hashtag trad wife stuff. I think they really kind of utilized that in a way that
they weaponized.
Yeah, they weaponized it, and this is where I say I don't think the Democrats really used things like TikTok as effectively as they could have in terms of they didn't really present an alternative coming from like the Democratic Party's side of, if they're kind of spewing this traditional male role kind of rhetoric, there wasn't really a lot of opposition to that.
And also not a message of what are we doing about those things.
I think a lot of I think a lot of my, like young men my age have said this ad nauseum of they felt ignored. Regardless, whether or not I necessarily agree with it, I could see from their perspective why they felt that way. A lot of the, campaign rhetoric from both ends, I would say, really didn't talk about men and what's in it for them.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I think that choosing a black female, almost like you said, some things got lost in choosing a black female is a great thing to do, but you can't forget the traditional pieces as well.
Again,
I just can't ignore them.
I would say this. I think the Kamala Harris and Tim Walz campaign did everything they possibly could with the resources that they had available. I think that their campaign in terms of media strategy is something to be studied and modeled. Where I think things went wrong was they didn't really put emphasis on why, like not just that why you should vote for me, but why you shouldn't.
So let me ask you this. This is very key because we're about to go through a political cycle here in New Orleans. The issue of what works in politics now. I mean, I think that I'm just going to tell you what I think works today versus what you as a younger person think will work for your generation. I think that retail politics, meaning go and meet people in person, works.
Yeah.
I think that social media works.
Yes.
But you have to constantly pour it out because it's a thing where if you don't give me a message every day or something like that, I don't hear it.
Yeah.
For people who do that. I think that television is not as strong anymore unless you have something very negative on television.
Yeah.
And I think that I just think that the whole thing of the money game of buying ads and doing all this kind of stuff is not the way to win. So what do you think from your generation's point of view about this?
I think you're correct in that the age of, sit down TV is gone.
Right. Talk about that right quick about your television viewing. Just give a quick example of how you watch a show. Like if I told you watch The Sopranos right now, what would you do?
Roku or an app or
right. You would not worry about having HBO. You wouldn't worry about anything. You might pull it up on your phone.
I don't have a cable box, so yes.
That's what I mean.
I haven't owned I don't think I've ever owned a cable box.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I was living at home.
Yeah.
But I think for my generation, one of the big factors is the rise of anti-intellectualism. This is also where I think the emphasis on social media is a bit misguided. It's now, I've been saying this, for years of, literacy rates amongst young people are consistently on a decline. Graduation rates are also on a decline. And I would say now it's almost becoming normalized to not finish school, to not pursue education. It's almost becoming cool to be, dare I say, dumb.
Yeah, to not have a higher education or higher degree.
Yeah. I think that is kind of where if you're emphasizing a lack of, intellectualism online, it's pretty easy to put out, as we're talking about with the ads and, miss the whole concept of like misinformation and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be probably the biggest hurdle for my generation of overcoming the rise of anti-intellectualism.
So give me just a couple of things on what your generation wants of the future. It doesn't matter about ideology. I'm just talking about generally, like what you really want to see. We know we're going to go through some crazy times, and this pendulum always swings back and forth, but you guys will really be in the forefront by the time we get to swinging back. So
I would say probably one of the biggest issues, at least for my generation, gun violence is something that has really come to define Gen Z.
Yeah.
Second of all, representation in government from people our age or close to our age. One thing that I've consistently heard from other, I'm technically Gen Z,
sure,
is the lack of, I guess, connection of you have people in government that are 2-3 generations before us making
and me
and passing laws that they likely won't be alive to see the consequences of. So I would say that's probably, emphasis on term limits is something that I would say, regardless of, where you fall on the political aisle, that's something that I think most of my generation can get behind.
I think you're right. I mean, I think Jazz and I were just talking about, we want some fresh faces even around here. I mean, we don't have that many political people in real positions of power in the local government, but we would like to see some people who were maybe 30, 40 years old do something.
That's what made Representative Maxwell Frost out of Florida, who's the first ever Gen Z in Congress. That's what made him so popular, was his youth.
Right. And at least, like you said, and the thing about government, particularly in the federal level, is it becomes a job and a career, and it is not a job and a career. I mean, I'm a strong proponent of term limits as well, because I don't think that anybody should be in any role for too long, because all it does is makes you become entrenched and immune almost to everything.
It almost becomes your personality if you don't have a reason to leave. I'd say the last kind of facet that will be most important to Gen Z in the decades to come, the economy.
Yeah.
This has been the case for the past couple of years of you have fewer Gen Zers and even I'd say younger millennials, home ownership, student loans.
Why do you think that is, the home ownership one in particular? People don't feel comfortable with it, or they feel like they can't afford it?
To put it plainly, can't afford it.
So the rise in housing prices and everything does, even if you have a good job, you can't reach where you need to be.
I think we've reached a point in terms, at least fiscally, where the current federal minimum wage is not a sustainable living minimum wage.
Not at all.
This is more so speaking to the millennials of, they were a generation that was told, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, buy less avocado toast and stop going to Starbucks, make coffee at home.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't really work out, because we're still dealing with that with Gen Z of, my birthday's today. I just turned 27. I don't know any of my friends that are even looking to purchase a home in the next 5-10 years.
Well, I can tell you, when just on the minimum wage thing, when I was working for city government, I mean, we did several times, we went past the minimum wage for people. I mean, when I left, it was almost $15 an hour, and it's like, so, and that's why I always tell people talk about not working for the city, but it's like, we tried to make sure that things were workable, because we had a lot of people who were single mothers and the like. So we wanted to make sure that happened. We're getting toward the end, but I just wanted to go to one other thing. Alexandra came on, and I'm really proud of her. I mean, she's a great girl. You can understand her intelligence and everything. But I also want to say it is her birthday. So I want to say happy birthday to you. You have made a great, I'm not going to say how old, but she's in her 20s. So, but you know, and you're making a life for yourself in California. And I just want you to talk about what you're doing in California, what your goals are in California.
Yes. So I work in the entertainment industry. I specifically work in TV production.
Yeah.
My long-term goals is to one day open up my own production company. I'm actually working with, you know, can't really talk about it in that great detail, but actually working towards a couple of collaborations to hopefully in the next 5-ish years open up my own production company. I've worked for BET for a little bit. I worked as a showrunner's assistant for a show called Sacrifice on BET Plus,
which I'm sure a lot of people out there watched.
It, you know, was with Paula Patton and the late Richard Roundtree. That was the show where I got my first staffing job as a television writer. I wrote I wrote episode 9 for season 2. After that, you know, things got a little haywire in Hollywood with the strikes and, you know, industry shakeup. I ended up working for the NFL for the media office for a hot minute. And recently I actually wrapped up a job working for Amazon Music Live for season 3 of their concert series.
Great.
Yeah.
So I just want you to talk a little bit about about that whole gist of what you said about the strike and everything and how it's slowly coming back. There's going to be mergers. There's going to be whatever goes on. But the entertainment industry is just crawling back into what it once was. And you're there. So you on the picket lines. You actually did picket. So what do you think about the outcome of where all this is going to end up?
I think right now we're in what I've labeled as the afterbirth of the strikes. You know, they were last summer. They were summer 2023. So year and a half-ish ago. I think the industry is still, you know, the chips are still falling in a lot of respects. I personally think that right now we're seeing an influx of reboots and remakes of shows. My hope for the, you know, 2025 season is that we'll see some new projects coming out.
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll see some new original
that's important to New Orleans' economy as well. So I think that we're going to say Merry Christmas to everybody, Happy Holidays to everybody, and a good night.
Tired of the impersonal, one-size-fit-all style of banking? You deserve a bank that delivers exceptional service and personalized attention to your needs. That's the Home Bank Standard. Since 1908, Home Bank has been a trusted financial partner for businesses and families because we go the extra mile to help you reach your goals. See for yourself why Home Bank is good for business, good for life. Stop by any New Orleans area location or find out more at home24bank.com. Home Bank, member FDIC.
Entergy New Orleans is creating stronger connections throughout our city. That commitment goes beyond strengthening our power grid. We're also investing in every neighborhood in the city: CBD, Uptown, Gerttown, New Orleans East, Bywater, and Mid-City. We're there, working for you. From STEM education to cultural events and community outreach programs, Entergy employees volunteer thousands of hours every year because this is our home too.
Jefferson Performing Arts presents The Nutcracker on stage at the Jefferson Performing Arts Center, December 21st and 22nd. Experience the magic of the holidays with this spectacular production of The Nutcracker, featuring guest artists and local performers too. Accompanied by a live orchestra. Be enchanted by the classic tale of Clara's Christmas Eve journey and experience her adventures with the Nutcracker Prince, the Mouse King, and the Sugar Plum Fairy. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts. With over 100 career-focused degrees and certificates that are affordable, flexible, and transferable, we can give you the knowledge and skills to succeed. Delgado is a great fit if you're starting your post-high school education, or we can help you advance or change your career. Take a step toward being unstoppable at Delgado Community College. Visit dcc.edu to learn more today.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Hey, what's up, good people? This is Gerard Stevens wishing you and yours the best of the holiday season. Be safe and, of course, keep it locked here.
I'm Wendell Pierce. Thanks for making WBOK your station. WBOK, 1230 a.m.
The Arnie and Carrie Show with Arnie Philco and Carrie Grant.
From the campus of Xavier University.
Yeah.
WBOK 1230 AM. Go. An Equity Media Station.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. A Republican spending bill to fund the government through March 14th has failed after some Republicans joined Democrats to reject it. President-elect Trump supported the bill, while Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries criticized it as laughable. Black St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones has strongly criticized the developers of Homer G. Phillips Hospital in North St. Louis following their sudden announcement to suspend operations. The hospital, which opened less than a year ago, revealed this week that it is shutting down. Former chief advisor to Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams, Ingrid Lewis Martin, who is also Black, has surrendered on bribery charges related to a hotel project and financial benefits for her son. And Amazon workers are on strike. The Teamsters Union says it's the largest strike against Amazon in U.S. history. Picket lines are up at Amazon facilities in New York City, Atlanta, San Francisco, the Chicago area, and 3 locations in Southern California. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Hey, Kevin, thinking about saving for retirement?
Yeah, but how do I start?
It's easy with Avo, a retirement coach. Let's learn the Avo bet. A is for taking action.
Not anxiety?
No, Kevin, you're gonna be fine.
You sing?
Barely. V is for variety.
Huh, change up my strategy. Okay.
O is for optimize your savings.
Let Avo lead the way.
Visit aceyourretirement.org today. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. And you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio prediabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
In our second hour today, nutritionist and author Maya Feller on her favorite soulful holiday recipes. Her book is titled Eating from Our Roots, 80 plus healthy home-cooked favorites from cultures around the world. We'll talk to Maya in our second hour. In our third hour, is STEM education failing people and children of color in particular? If so, how can schools create a culturally relevant curriculum for STEM education? And are there fun science, tech, engineering, and or math projects you can do with your children while they're home during the holidays? We'll talk about it in hour 3 with former NASA engineer and STEM educator Dr. Nehemiah Mabel. But in this first hour today, a tribute to one of my favorite and most frequent guests over the years of my broadcast career, the prolific poet, visionary artist, and towering public intellectual Nikki Giovanni, who passed away this week at the age of 81. Nikki was last on this program in August of this year, and I sensed even then that we might be talking for the last time, at least publicly. 2024 has been a rough year for those of us who revel in Black genius. We have lost some legends. We've lost some giants this year. And so we dig into the vault one more again and celebrate Nikki Giovanni in this hour.
Morality and power is a very subtle one. You know, because power, ultimately with no morality, is not any longer power. You cannot call Spain a powerful nation. You can't call Franco a powerful man. He's got a whole nation in jail, but that's not power.
No.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know,
his game isn't running.
Precisely. Now, when our game starts running, and after all, baby, we have survived the roughest game in the history of the world.
Yeah.
You know, we really have. No matter what we say against ourselves, no matter what our limits and hang-ups are, we have come through something, and if we can get this far, we can get further, and we got this far by means which no one understands, including you and me. We're only beginning to apprehend it, and you're a poet precisely because you are beginning to apprehend it and put it into a form, which will be useful for your kid and his kid, and for the world. Because we're not obliged to accept the world's definitions. Just because white people say they're white, we're not obliged to believe it. Just because the Pope says he's a Christian, we're not obliged to believe it.
And we'd be crazy if we did.
We have to make our own definitions and begin to rule the world that way. Because kids, white and black, cannot use what they have been given.
And they're rejecting it.
They're rejecting it. Nobody wants to become the president of Pan Am, or the governor of California, or Spiro Agnew. The kids want to live. Yeah. And we have, out of a terrifying suffering, a certain sense of life which everybody needs. And that's morality for me.
Nikki Giovanni, every time I hear that conversation, and I go back to it often, I am always struck by the richness and the relevance of it, even in real time. It is always a delight, as I said earlier, to be in dialogue with you. How are you doing, for starters?
Well, I'm hanging in. I've had a bit of pneumonia that I'm having some trouble shaking, but other than that, I'm hanging in. I'm fine. It's good talking to you. I definitely wanted to talk to you, and I'm very happy to celebrate Jimmy's birthday.
No, I'm honored.
I think it's important that we always remember the people who laid this path for us. Yeah. And certainly he is one of them.
No question about that. I read a piece just to get us started. We'll get to Jimmy and to you and that conversation and so much other stuff in this hour. Let me start with this. I was reading a piece the other day. I think it was in The Guardian, where you said,
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
Tired of the impersonal, one-size-fit-all style of banking? You deserve a bank that delivers exceptional service and personalized attention to your needs. That's the Home Bank Standard. Since 1908, Home Bank has been a trusted financial partner for businesses and families because we go the extra mile to help you reach your goals. See for yourself why Home Bank is good for business, good for life. Stop by any New Orleans area location or find out more at home24bank.com. Home Bank, member FDIC.
Hello, WBOK listening audience. This is Pastor Robert Tanner of the Community Church of River Ridge, Louisiana, inviting you to tune in to our Sunday morning broadcast at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning right here on WBOK 1230 AM. That's Community Church with Pastor Robert Tanner every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on WBOK 1230.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
New Schools for New Orleans wants to send a huge congratulations to all of our educators, students, and families of New Orleans for their continuous academic growth. School performance scores have been released from the state. For the first time in many years, there are no failing schools in New Orleans Public Schools. As a district, our performance increased by 4 points. In addition, Orleans Parish now exceeds pre-COVID school performance score for all students by 6.2 points. When you see a teacher, school leader, or student, be sure to show them some love.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
All I know that works in the world is a relationship.
Yes, all right.
Okay, that's all that's going to work. It takes two people to have a relationship.
Yeah, but the relationship.
If you don't have a dream, fake it.
But the relationship, you can't fake a dream.
You got to fake it, because we don't have dreams these days. How the hell can you have a dream? For what?
Well, it isn't.
So everybody's jiving, but let's jive on that level.
If I love you, I can't lie to you.
Of course you can lie to me. And you will. If you love me and you're going off with Maddie someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there. What Billie Holiday say, hush now, don't explain.
All right, I accept that.
Of course.
All
Of
right,
course
I
you'll lie to me,
accept
because I don't even want to care. What does the truth matter? And why are you going to be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else? You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
I can't treat you the way I treat him.
You must. Because I've caught the frowns and the anger. He's happy with you. Of course he doesn't know you're unhappy. You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell. Because I love you, I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying